A waitress spilled champagne on the wrong man. He humiliated and shaved her head for fun in front of everyone. Then the doors opened, and her husband walked in, the quiet, powerful man who funded the entire event. What the room didn't know, he never forgives, and he always protects what's his. Ana Rodriguez wiped down her third champagne flute of the evening, trying to ignore the blister forming on her heel. The Grand Meridian Ballroom sparkled like something out of a fairy tale: crystal chandeliers, silk tablecloths, women in gowns that cost more than her yearly rent. She didn't belong here, not really. But when her manager called at 4 p.m. begging someone to cover Maria's shift at this charity banquet, Ana had said yes. She always said yes. "More champagne over here," a voice barked from table 7. Ana grabbed a fresh bottle from the service station and headed over, her sensible black flats squeaking slightly on the polished marble. Table 7 was loud. 6 young men in expensive suits, their faces flushed from drinking, their laughter cutting through the chamber music like broken glass. She recognized one of them from the newspapers. Ethan Marlowe, 28 years old, heir to the Marlowe Group, one of the biggest real estate developers in New York. His father owned half of Manhattan, and Ethan acted like he owned the other half. "Finally," Ethan said as Ana approached. He didn't look at her face, just thrust his empty glass toward her like she was invisible. Anna's hands trembled slightly as she poured. She'd been on her feet for 6 hours. The bottle was heavier than it looked, and the chandelier light was right in her eyes, and the champagne splashed over the rim of Ethan's glass, spilling onto his crisp white shirt and navy suit jacket. The table went silent. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Ana grabbed a napkin, her heart hammering. "Let me. Are you kidding me?" Ethan shot to his feet, holding his arms out. The champagne had left a dark stain across his chest. "This is a $5,000 suit. I'll get club soda. I can fix it." "You can fix it?" Ethan's voice rose, and suddenly everyone nearby was turning to look. "Do you have any idea what this jacket costs?" "What my shirt costs. More than you make in 6 months, sweetheart." Anna's face burned. "Sir, I really am sorry. It was an accident." "An accident?" One of Ethan's friends laughed, pulling out his phone. "Dude, this is gold. Are you recording this, Tyler?" "Already on it," another one said, camera pointing at her. Ana wanted to disappear. She could feel hundreds of eyes on her now, could see other servers frozen in place, unsure whether to help. The musicians had stopped playing. "Please," she whispered. "I'll pay for the cleaning." "You'll pay?" Ethan stepped closer, and Ana smelled the alcohol on his breath. "With what?" "Your tips." He turned to his friends, playing to his audience now. "Guess they really do let anyone work these events these days. No standards anymore." Laughter rippled through the nearby tables. Not loud laughter, but the polite kind that hurt worse, like people were embarrassed for her, but not enough to stop it. Ethan grabbed his wine glass, dangling it mockingly in front of Anna's face. Maybe they should make sure the help knows how to hold a bottle before they let them near the good stuff. Anna's eyes stung. She tried to back away, but Ethan caught her wrist. Wait. I've got an idea." His eyes were bright with alcohol and malice. "You know what? You ruined my night. My $5,000 suit. I think you need to learn a lesson." "Ethan, come on, man," one of his friends said weakly, but he was grinning. Anna's stomach dropped as Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a pocket knife, one of those expensive Swiss ones with a dozen attachments. He unfolded a small pair of scissors. "What are you, no, please?" Ana tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. "Hold still," Ethan said, and before she could scream, he grabbed a chunk of her long brown hair and snipped it off with the scissors. The hair fell to the floor in a dark ribbon. Ana gasped, her free hand flying to her head. The room erupted in shocked murmurs, but no one moved. No one helped. "There," Ethan said, laughing. "Now we're even. Your hair for my suit. Fair trade." Ana couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. She stood there, shaking, feeling the uneven ends where her hair used to be. Tears blurred her vision. "Please," she heard herself say. "Please don't hurt me. I'll clean it up. I'll fix everything. Please just." She dropped to her knees, grabbing the napkins, trying to clean the champagne off his shoes now. Anything to make this stop. The cameras kept recording. The laughter kept coming. And then the doors opened. The massive double doors at the entrance to the ballroom swung inward, and the room fell silent. A man walked in. He wore a charcoal suit that fit like it was painted on, a black overcoat draped over his shoulders. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. He moved with the kind of quiet confidence that made everyone step aside without thinking about it. Anna didn't look up. She was still on her knees, still trembling, still holding the champagne-soaked napkins. The man's footsteps stopped. Anna finally raised her head, and her breath caught. Matteo. Her husband's dark eyes took in the scene. Anna on the floor, hair in her hand, tears on her face. Ethan standing over her, scissors still in his grip, grinning for the cameras. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Matteo walked forward. Slowly, deliberately. He unbuttoned his overcoat as he moved, slipping it off his shoulders. When he reached Anna, he knelt down and draped the coat over her, covering her shaking shoulders. "Stand up, Cara," he said softly. Anna stood on unsteady legs, and Matteo rose with her, keeping one hand on her back. Then he turned to face Ethan Marlowe. "You just humiliated my wife," Matteo said. His voice was quiet, calm, terrifying. "And you did it in my house." Ethan's grin faltered. "Your house." "I funded this entire event," Matteo said. "This room, this charity, everything you're standing on. Mean it." The color drained from Ethan's face. Matteo's expression never changed. "And you thought it would be fun to cut her hair off like an animal." Every camera in the room was now pointed at them. "You made a mistake tonight, Mr. Marlowe," Matteo said quietly. "And I'm going to make sure you understand exactly what that mistake cost you." Ethan's laugh came out nervous, forced. "Look, man, I don't know who you think you are." "Security," Matteo said, not raising his voice, not even looking away from Ethan. For men in black suits materialized from the edges of the ballroom. They moved like shadows, silent and efficient. "Wait, you can't just—" Ethan backed up a step, his friends suddenly very interested in their phones, in the floor, in anything but helping him. "Escort Mr. Marlowe and his guests out," Matteo said. "They're no longer welcome." "This is insane." Ethan's voice cracked. "My father donated $50,000 to this charity. You can't throw me out of a public event." Matteo finally smiled, and it was the coldest thing Anna had ever seen. "This isn't a public event, Mr. Marlowe. This is my event. My charity. My ballroom," he paused. "And that was my wife." The security team moved in. Ethan tried to pull away, but one of the men gripped his elbow firmly. Not violent, not aggressive, just absolutely immovable. "You're going to regret this," Ethan shouted as they guided him toward the exit. "My father will destroy you. Do you know who we are?" Matteo's expression never changed. "Yes." "Do you know who I am?" The question hung in the air as security escorted all 6 young men out. The ballroom remained silent except for the sound of expensive shoes on marble and Ethan's fading protests. When the doors closed, the murmuring started. Hundreds of conversations at once, a wave of whispers and speculation. Anna stood frozen in Matteo's coat, aware that every person in the room was staring at them. Her hand went to her hair again, feeling the jagged, uneven cut. Shame burned through her chest. "Matteo," she whispered, "please, can we just go?" He turned to her, and his expression softened. The dangerous man disappeared, replaced by the husband she knew, the one who made her coffee every morning, who fell asleep during movies, who left post-it notes with terrible jokes on the bathroom mirror. "Of course," he said gently. He kept his arm around her shoulders as he guided her toward a side exit, away from the cameras and curious eyes. But before they left, he paused and looked back at the crowd. "Enjoy your evening," he said pleasantly. "The bar remains open. All drinks are on the house." A ripple of uncertain applause followed them out. The car ride home was silent. Anna sat in the back of the town car, wrapped in Mateo's coat, staring out the window at the glittering Manhattan skyline. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Anna," Mateo said quietly, "look at me." She couldn't. "Kara, please." "You shouldn't have done that," she said, her voice barely audible. "You made a scene. Everyone was watching. Everyone recorded it. This is going to be everywhere." "Good." She finally looked at him. "Good? Mateo, this is my fault. I spilled champagne on him. I should have been more careful. And now you've made an enemy of the Marlowe family over nothing." "Nothing." Mateo's jaw tightened. "Anna, he cut your hair. He humiliated you in front of hundreds of people. He treated you like you were less than human. That's not nothing. But starting a war over it." "I didn't start anything." Mateo's voice was soft but absolute. "He did. The moment he decided my wife was entertainment. The moment he thought there would be no consequences." Anna felt tears coming again. She pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to stop them. "I just wanted to help Maria with her shift. I just wanted to make some extra money for your birthday present." Mateo's expression cracked. He pulled her close, and she let herself cry into his shoulder. "I'm sorry," he murmured against her hair. "I'm sorry you had to experience that. But Anna, please understand, I can't let this go." "I won't." She pulled back to look at him. "What are you going to do?" "Make sure it never happens again," he said. "To you, or anyone else." There was something in his voice that made her stomach turn. A finality. A promise that sounded more like a threat. "Promise me you won't do anything crazy," she said. "Please, Mateo. Just let it fade away." He kissed her forehead. "Too late, Kara," he whispered. The scene was theirs. The ending's mine. By 6 a.m., Anna's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She sat at the kitchen table in Mateo's t-shirt and sweatpants, scrolling through news alerts with growing horror. Real estate heir assaults waitress at charity gala. Caught on camera, Marlowe's son cuts woman's hair in shocking display. Who is Mateo Ricci? Mystery donor defends wife at banquet. Every major outlet had the footage. The champagne spill. Ethan's mocking. The scissors. Anna on her knees. And then Mateo's entrance, the way the entire room had gone silent when he spoke. The video had 12 million views already. Anna's stomach twisted. The comments ranged from supportive to vicious. People were dissecting every second, every word. Someone had already made memes. Another person had created a hashtag. #Justice for Anna. "You should eat something," Mateo said, appearing in the doorway with coffee. "Have you seen this?" Anna held up her phone. "It's everywhere. They're calling it this champagne scandal. People are posting my picture, trying to find out where I work, where we live." "I've seen it." Mateo set the coffee down calmly. And Ethan Marlowe's PR team released a statement an hour ago. They're calling it an unfortunate incident fueled by alcohol and high emotions. They say he's seeking counseling. That's it. Anna couldn't believe it. That's their response. Mateo smiled, but there was no warmth in it. For now. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Anna watched as he spoke rapid Italian to someone on the other end, his tone businesslike and cold. When he hung up, she asked, "What was that?" "Just moving some pieces," he said casually. "Would you like pancakes?" Anna stared at her husband. This man she'd married 3 years ago. This man who claimed he worked in international investments and never quite explained what that meant, and realized she was watching something begin. Something that wouldn't end with an apology or a PR statement. "Mateo," she said carefully, "what are you planning?" He looked at her with those dark, unreadable eyes. "Justice," he said simply. "And a lesson that New York won't forget." 3 days after the banquet, Richard Marlowe, Ethan's father and CEO of Marlowe Group, sat in his corner office on the 42nd floor, staring at a spreadsheet that made no sense. "Run it again," he told his CFO. "Sir, I've run it 4 times. The numbers are correct." James' chin looked pale. "We're losing stock. Someone's been buying shares through offshore accounts. Small amounts, different companies, but it's coordinated." "How much have we lost?" "Control of 8% so far. But it's accelerating." Richard's jaw clenched. 8% didn't sound like much, but it was enough to shift board votes. Enough to cause problems. Who's buying? That's the thing. We can't trace it. Shell companies in the Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, Singapore. All legitimate on paper, but the actual owners are hidden behind layers of corporate structures. Richard thought about the video that had been playing on loop for 3 days. His idiot son cutting off some waitress's hair. The mysterious man who'd thrown Ethan out. Matteo Ricci. He'd made calls. Called in favors. Asked around about Ricci. The answers he got back made his blood run cold. "Get me everything you can on Matteo Ricci," Richard said. "I want to know what he eats for breakfast." James hesitated. "Sir, I already tried. There's almost nothing. He owns a private investment firm called Ricci Enterprises, but their holdings are complicated. International. He's got his fingers in everything from real estate to shipping to." He paused. "There are rumors, sir." "What kind of rumors?" "The kind people don't talk about in public." Anna found Matteo in his home office that evening, surrounded by 3 computer monitors and a stack of documents. He was on the phone, speaking in rapid Italian again, his tone clipped and businesslike. When he saw her, he switched to English. "I'll call you back." He hung up and smiled. "Hey, how was your day?" "Don't do that," Anna said. "Don't pretend this is normal." "I'm working." "That's very normal." "Matteo," she crossed her arms. "I saw the news. Marlowe Group stock dropped 15% today. Their biggest construction project in Brooklyn just lost its permits. 3 of their investors pulled out. That's not coincidence." Matteo's expression remained neutral. "The market is volatile." "Stop lying to me." Anna's voice broke. "I know what you're doing. You're going after them. After him. And I need you to stop." "I can't do that." "Yes, you can." She moved closer, desperation creeping into her voice. "Matteo, please. This has gotten too big. You're turning this into a war over me, and I can't be the reason you destroy someone's entire life." Matteo stood up slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "No, Anna." "You're not listening." They declared war the moment they forgot what decency looks like. The moment Ethan decided your dignity was worth less than his entertainment. He was drunk and stupid. And rich and powerful and completely certain there would be no consequences. Matteo's voice was quiet but hard as steel. "Do you know how many times he's done things like this? How many people he's humiliated, harassed, hurt? I had my people look into him. 7 harassment complaints. 4 settlements paid quietly to make problems disappear. A DUI that vanished from police records. A assault charge that somehow never made it to trial." Anna's stomach sank. "How do you know all that?" "Because men like Ethan Marlowe are predictable. They think money makes them untouchable. They think power means they can do whatever they want." He cupped her face gently. "And they keep doing it until someone shows them they're wrong. By bankrupting his family, by teaching them that actions have consequences. That's all." Anna pulled away. "That's not all, Matteo. You're not just teaching him a lesson. You're systematically destroying their company, their reputation, everything." "Yes." The simple admission hung between them. "Why?" Anna whispered. "Why does it have to be so total?" Matteo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "When I was 12 years old, I watched my mother get fired from her cleaning job because her boss grabbed her and she pushed him away. She reported it. He denied it. She lost everything while he got promoted." His eyes were distant. "I swore that if I ever had power, I would use it to make sure that never happened to someone I loved. That the people who hurt them would pay. Really pay." Anna felt tears burning again. "I'm not your mother, Matteo. And this isn't about justice anymore. This is about revenge." "Maybe," he admitted. But it's also about making sure Ethan Marlowe never does this to anyone else. Making sure every person like him thinks twice before they treat someone as less than human. And what if it changes you? Anna asked quietly. What if this war turns you into someone I don't recognize? The question seemed to hit him harder than she expected. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, she saw doubt flicker across his face. But then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and whatever he saw there made him straighten. I need to take this, he said. Matteo. Please, Anna. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. He walked out, leaving her alone in the office surrounded by screens full of numbers and companies and strategies she didn't understand. Anna sank into his chair and buried her face in her hands. The worst part was that she did trust him. She trusted that he loved her, that he thought he was protecting her. But she also knew that once you started a war, you couldn't always control how it ended. And she was terrified of what Matteo would become before this was over. That night, Richard Marlowe got an email from his bank. Due to regulatory review, all business accounts ending in 4892, 3021, and 7766 have been temporarily frozen, pending investigation. Those were their primary operating accounts, the ones they used to pay contractors, suppliers, employees. He called the bank immediately. I'm sorry, Mr. Marlowe, the manager said. It's out of our hands. Federal audit. We have no timeline. Richard hung up and stared at his phone. Then he did something he hadn't done in 20 years. He felt afraid. The headline appeared on the New York Financial Times website at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Shadow investor Matteo Ricci under investigation for charity fund manipulation. Anna saw it while making coffee. Her hands froze on the mug. The article was detailed, damning. It claimed that Matteo had funneled charity donations through his private companies, using nonprofit events to launder money and manipulate investors. Anonymous sources, close to the investigation, suggested he had ties to organized crime, that he used intimidation tactics, that the banquet incident was just the tip of a much darker iceberg. They're fighting back, Matteo said calmly from behind her. Anna jumped, nearly dropping the mug. Did you see this? They're calling you a criminal. They're saying you manipulated charity funds that you're connected to. She couldn't even say it. The mob. Matteo smiled and took the phone from her hand. He scrolled through the article, his expression never changing. It's a good strategy, actually. Can't fight me in business, so discredit me publicly. Make me the villain. This isn't funny. I'm not laughing, but he was still smiling. Anna, this is exactly what I expected. The Marlowes are powerful people. They have friends in media, connections in law enforcement, politicians on speed dial. Of course they're going to hit back. But these accusations, if people believe this, they won't. Matteo set the phone down and pulled her close. Because I have something they don't. What? The truth. By noon, 3 more articles had appeared. Different publications, same theme. Matteo Ricci was dangerous. His wealth was suspicious. The charity banquet was a front. Sources claimed he'd threatened Ethan Marlowe's family, that his business practices were questionable at best, criminal at worst. Channel 7 News ran a segment with a former business associate who claimed Matteo had intimidated him into selling his company. The man looked nervous, reading from notes, but his story was compelling. Anna watched from the couch, her anxiety building with each new report. The comment sections were turning. People who'd supported her days ago were now questioning everything. Maybe the husband is connected to organized crime. The whole thing seems suspicious now. Rich people destroying each other, who cares? Matteo walked in carrying his laptop, completely unbothered. He actually looked pleased. Why are you smiling? Anna demanded. They're destroying your reputation. They're swinging blind, Matteo said, settling beside her. Watch what happens when someone fights in the dark versus someone who can see. He opened his laptop and typed rapidly. I have a friend at the Times. Real journalist, not the kind you can buy. I'm sending him something. What? The full footage. Unedited. Everything the cameras caught that night. Anna's breath caught. The banquet? But that's already everywhere.
No.
What's everywhere is a 2-minute clip. The champagne spill, the hair cutting my entrance. Very dramatic, Mateo's fingers flew across the keyboard. But the event was 3 hours long. Every moment recorded by the venue's security system. And I own the venue. He turned the laptop toward her. On the screen was a video file. Meridian_ballroom_full_footage_101925. What's in there? Anna asked. Context, Mateo said simply. The whole evening. Ethan and his friends harassing staff all night. Grabbing waitresses. Making racist comments to a busboy. Throwing food. The security trying to calm them down multiple times, he paused. And 30 minutes before you arrived at his table, Ethan cutting off another server's tie because he thought it was funny. Anna's blood ran cold. Another person? A college kid working his way through NYU. Ethan did the same thing. Pulled out those scissors, cut the tie right off while his friends recorded it. The kid was too scared to complain. Mateo's eyes hardened. But it's all on camera. Why didn't you release this before? Because I wanted them to attack first, Mateo said. I wanted the Marlows to commit. To go all in with their media strategy, spend their credibility calling me a criminal, he smiled. And now, when people see what Ethan really is, they'll realize the Marlows were trying to protect a monster. He hit send. The story went live at 3 p.m. Full footage reveals pattern of abuse. Ethan Marlowe's 3-hour rampage. The article included the complete, unedited security footage. Time-stamped. Crystal clear. Impossible to deny. Within an hour, it had 2 million views. By dinner, it was the top trending story in the country. The video showed everything. Ethan wasn't just drunk and careless. He was cruel. Deliberately, consistently cruel. Mocking a Hispanic waiter's accent. Snapping his fingers at servers like they were dogs. Cornering a young waitress and whispering something that made her face go pale. And yes, cutting that college student's tie, laughing while the kids stood there humiliated. Then came Anna's scene. But now, with full context, it looked even worse. This wasn't an isolated mistake. This was a pattern. A game. The comment sections exploded. This is disgusting. This man is a predator. And they tried to make the husband look like the criminal. The Marlows should be ashamed. Every single person who laughed should be held accountable. Anna watched the tide turn in real time. People who'd been defending Ethan went silent. The news stations that had run negative stories about Mateo started issuing corrections. Apologies. The Financial Times just retracted their article, Mateo said, refreshing his phone. And Channel 7's source admitted he was paid by Marlowe Group's legal team to make those statements. They paid someone to lie about you. Of course they did. But now everyone knows it. Mateo looked satisfied. The beautiful thing about the truth, Anna, is that it doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be undeniable. Anna felt something shift in her chest. Relief mixed with something else. Something uncomfortable. You planned this, she said slowly. From the beginning. You knew they'd attack you and you waited. I strategized. Mateo corrected. There's a difference. Is there? He met her eyes.
Yes.
Strategy means thinking 3 moves ahead. It means understanding your opponent and letting them make mistakes. He reached for her hand. I didn't create Ethan's cruelty, Anna. I just made sure everyone could see it clearly. Anna wanted to argue. Wanted to say this felt manipulative, calculated, cold. But she couldn't. Because as she watched the news anchors condemning Ethan, as she read the thousands of comments supporting her, defending her, she felt something she hadn't felt since that night.
Safe.
For the first time since being humiliated in front of hundreds of people, she felt like maybe the world was actually on her side. And that terrified her almost as much as Mateo's methods did. Because if she was honest with herself, a small part of her was glad. Glad that Ethan Marlowe was finally being seen for what he really was. And glad that her husband knew exactly how to make that happen. Anna stopped going outside. Not officially. Not dramatically. She just found reasons to stay home. Groceries could be delivered. She called in sick to her waitressing job, her real job, the diner in Brooklyn where she'd worked for 4 years. Her manager had seen the videos, told her to take all the time she needed.
Time.
As if time could erase being the most talked about woman in New York. On Thursday, 5 days after the banquet, Anna stood in front of the bathroom mirror with scissors in her hand. Her hair was still uneven, still showing where Ethan had cut it. She'd been wearing it in a ponytail, hiding it, but now she stared at her reflection and felt something crack inside her chest. She started cutting. Not wildly. Not emotionally. Just evening it out, making it purposeful instead of accidental. Taking back control in the only way she knew how. When she finished, her hair fell just above her shoulders, shorter than she'd worn it since high school, but clean. Intentional. Hers. Mateo found her sweeping up the hair from the bathroom floor. Anna, he said softly, you didn't have to do that alone. We could have gone to a salon. I needed to do it myself. She didn't look at him. I needed to fix it myself instead of having someone else fix it for me. The words hung between them, loaded with meaning. Mateo leaned against the doorframe. Are we still talking about hair? Anna set down the broom. I got another interview request today. Good Morning America wants me to come on and tell my story. They're offering $20,000. You don't need their money. That's not the point. Anna's voice cracked. The point is that everyone wants a piece of this now. Everyone wants to hear how humiliated I was, how terrible it felt, how grateful I and that my powerful husband swooped in to save me. She finally met his eyes. I'm not a damsel, Mateo. I'm not a story. I'm not a symbol. I'm just a person who spilled champagne and had a really bad night. You're more than that. To you, maybe. But to the rest of the world. She gestured at her phone on the counter, at the dozens of notifications lighting up the screen. I'm the champagne girl. The waitress who married up. The woman who started a war between billionaires. Her voice dropped. Do you know what they're calling me online? The real housewife of the Mafia. Mateo's jaw tightened. Those people are idiots. Those people are everyone. Anna felt tears threatening again. She was so tired of crying. I can't go to the grocery store without someone recognizing me. I can't walk down the street without phones pointing at me. Yesterday, someone followed me for 3 blocks trying to get a selfie. She wrapped her arms around herself. I never wanted this, Mateo. I never wanted to be the center of a city scandal. I know. Mateo moved toward her, but she stepped back.
Do you?
Because from where I'm standing, you're enjoying this. You're winning your war against the Marlowes, getting your revenge, teaching everyone a lesson. Her voice broke. And I'm the one who is to live with being the reason for all of it. Anna, you're not the reason. Ethan is. But I'm the excuse. The words burst out of her. Every move you make, every company you destroy, every person you ruin, it's all in my name. For my honor. To protect me, she looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. But you can't build peace on humiliation, Mateo. Not his. Not theirs. Not anyone's. Mateo went very still. What are you saying? I'm saying this needs to stop. Anna's voice shook but stayed firm. I know you think you're protecting me. I know you think you're creating justice. But all I see is more pain, more destruction, more people getting hurt, and it's all attached to my face, my name, my life. They hurt you first. And now you're hurting them back, and it doesn't make what happened to me any less real. Anna wiped at her eyes angrily. It doesn't change the fact that I was humiliated. It doesn't erase the video. It doesn't give me back my dignity. All it does is make me feel like I'm responsible for whatever happens to them. Mateo looked stricken. You're not responsible. I am. But we're married, Anna whispered. What you do in my name. And I can't carry that weight, Mateo. I can't be the reason someone's life falls apart, even if they deserve it. The bathroom fell silent except for the drip of the faucet. Finally, Mateo spoke, his voice barely audible. So, what do you want me to do? Anna had been asking herself that question for days. What did she want? For Ethan to face consequences?
Yes.
For people to understand what he'd done? Absolutely. But for his entire family to lose everything? For Mateo to become someone who destroyed lives as easily as he saved hers? I want you to remember why you're doing this, she said finally. Is it for justice? Or is it for revenge? Because those are different things, Mateo. And I'm not sure you know the difference anymore. Mateo stared at her for a long moment. Then, quietly, maybe you're right. What? You said I can't build peace on humiliation. He moved closer, and this time, she didn't step back. But maybe I can build justice on memory. On making sure this matters. On creating something good from something terrible.
How?
I don't know yet, he touched her new, shorter hair gently. But you're right. I've been so focused on destroying them that I forgot what I'm actually fighting for. His dark eyes met hers. I'm fighting for a world where what happened to you never happens to anyone else. And I can't create that world through destruction alone. Anna felt something loosen in her chest. Not relief, exactly, but hope. So you'll stop? She asked. Mateo hesitated.
I'll
adjust. Think strategically instead of emotionally, he cupped her face. But Anna, I can't completely stop. Not until I'm sure they understand. Not until there's real change. It wasn't the answer she wanted. But looking into his eyes, seeing the conflict there, the war between his love for her and his need for justice, she understood. This wasn't over. But maybe, just maybe, it could end differently than she feared. Okay, she whispered. Just remember who you are. Remember why I married you. Why did you marry me? Mateo asked softly. Anna managed a small, sad smile. Because you were the kindest man I'd ever met. Don't forget that kindness, Mateo. Even when you're being strategic. He kissed her forehead, and she felt him tremble slightly. Her words had gotten through. Not enough to stop him, but enough to change him. And for now, that would have to be enough. The calls started Monday morning. Richard Marlowe's phone rang at 7 a.m. It was the head of the city's building department. Richard, we've got a problem with the Hudson Yards project. New environmental assessment came through. Looks like we'll need to halt construction pending review. Environmental assessment? We passed inspection 3 months ago. New regulations. Federal. Out of my hands. Saw the... Richard hung up and immediately got another call. The Brooklyn Development Authority. The permit for their luxury condo project in Williamsburg, the one that was supposed to break ground in 2 weeks, had been flagged for zoning inconsistencies. What inconsistencies? We've had approval for 8 months. There's some question about the original surveys. We'll need to re-review. Could take 60 to 90 days. By 9 a.m., Richard had received 4 more calls. Each project, delayed, reviewed, questioned, halted. Each excuse different, but the effect identical. Marlowe Group's operations were grinding to a stop. This is coordinated, Richard told his executive team in an emergency meeting. Someone is hitting us from every angle. But who has this kind of reach? His COO asked. This isn't just business pressure. This is regulatory, governmental. Richard said the name like a curse. He's got connections we don't understand. People we can't touch. James Chin pulled up a spreadsheet. It gets worse. 3 of our major suppliers called this morning. They're reassessing their partnership agreements translation. They're walking away from contracts. They can't just walk away. We have legal agreements. They're willing to pay the penalties. Someone's offering them better terms elsewhere. James's voice was grim. And sir, the stock dropped another 12% at market open. We're down 40% total from last week. 40%. In 1 week. Richard felt the walls closing in. Anna saw the news while at the diner. She'd finally returned to work, needing normalcy more than she needed to hide. Her coworkers treated her carefully, like she might break, but at least they treated her like a person. The TV above the counter showed a financial news segment. Marlowe Group in freefall. What's behind a real estate giant's sudden collapse? Rough week for those guys. Jake, the line cook, commented. Couldn't happen to nicer people, though. Did you see what that Ethan kid did to you? Anna's stomach twisted. Yeah, I was there. Oh, right. Sorry, Jake looked embarrassed. I just meant karma, you know?
Karma.
Everyone kept using that word, like the universe was naturally balancing itself, not being deliberately pushed by her husband's invisible hands. She pulled out her phone and texted Mateo. We need to talk.
Tonight.
His response came immediately. Of course. I love you. 3 words that used to make her feel safe. Now they made her feel complicit. That afternoon, the health inspector showed up at 3 Marlowe-owned hotels simultaneously. Code violations everywhere. Outdated fire suppression systems. Improper food storage. Issues that had somehow never been problems during previous inspections. This is harassment. Richard shouted into his phone at the inspector's supervisor. These hotels have been operating for 15 years. Then they've been violating code for 15 years, Mr. Marlowe. I suggest you address it. The fines would be in the millions. The repairs would take months. The publicity would be devastating. And through it all, Matteo Ricci's name appeared nowhere. No obvious connections, no traceable interference. Just a series of unfortunate coincidences that were anything but coincidental. You said you'd think strategically instead of emotionally, Anna said that evening. She sat across from Matteo at their kitchen table, her arms crossed. This doesn't look strategic. This looks like annihilation. Matteo poured them both wine. It is strategic. I'm systematically removing their ability to continue operating while keeping my fingerprints off everything. That's not better, Matteo. That's just being sneaky about destruction. No, he set down the wine bottle carefully. It's being precise. Every regulation I'm using is real. Every inspection is legitimate. Every supplier who's walking away is doing so because I'm offering them better terms that help their businesses grow. He met her eyes. I'm not breaking laws, Anna. I'm enforcing them. I'm using the system exactly as it's designed to work. Against one family. Against one family that's been circumventing that same system for decades. Matteo's voice was calm but firm. The Marlowes have used their money and influence to skip inspections, ignore regulations, bribe officials. I'm not creating problems for them. I'm removing the protection that let them ignore existing problems. Anna wanted to argue, but she couldn't deny the logic. So, this is justice. This is accountability. Matteo reached for her hand. And Anna, I promise you, I'm doing this carefully, thoughtfully. No one's getting hurt except the people who deserve it. What about their employees? The people who work for Marlowe Group who did nothing wrong. Matteo paused. I've already arranged for their key people to receive job offers from competitor companies. Better salaries. Better benefits. He squeezed her hand. You were right. I can't let innocent people suffer because of what Ethan did. So, I'm not. Anna stared at him, caught between admiration and fear. This was the man she'd married, the one who thought 10 steps ahead, who considered every angle. But it was also a man wielding power in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. How much further does this go? She asked quietly. As far as it needs to. That's not an answer. Matteo was quiet for a moment. Then, Richard Marlowe will call me within 48 hours. He'll want to meet, negotiate, make a deal. He looked at her steadily. And that's when I'll decide how this ends. Anna's phone buzzed. Another news alert. Marlowe Group faces perfect storm of regulatory setbacks. Perfect storm. As if nature had arranged this. What are you going to tell him? Anna asked. When he calls? Matteo's expression was unreadable. That depends on what he offers. Richard Marlowe made the call Wednesday evening, exactly 32 hours after Anna and Matteo's conversation. Matteo let it ring 3 times before answering. Mr. Ricci? Richard's voice was controlled, professional, defeated. I think it's time we had a conversation. Face to face. I agree, Matteo said pleasantly. When and where? My office.
Tomorrow.
10 a.m. No, Matteo's tone didn't change. Neutral ground. The conference room at the plaza. Noon. A pause. Richard Marlowe wasn't used to being told no. Fine, he said finally.
Noon.
Just you and me. Just you and me, Matteo agreed. He hung up and looked at Anna, who'd been listening from the doorway. It's happening, he said. Anna's heart was pounding. What are you going to do? Matteo stood and walked to her, pulling her close. Win, he said simply. But on our terms. On your terms. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe this would end well, that justice would be served without more destruction, that Matteo would remain the man she'd married. But as she held him in their kitchen, she couldn't shake the feeling that some wars changed everyone who fought them. Even the winners. The conference room on the 45th floor of the plaza overlooked Central Park. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the autumn trees like a painting, all gold and crimson. The table was polished mahogany, long enough to seat 20. Only 2 chairs were occupied. Richard Marlowe sat at one end, his expensive suit unable to hide the exhaustion in his face. He'd aged 10 years in a week. Gray stubble shadowed his jaw, and his eyes had the haunted look of a man watching his empire crumble. Matteo sat at the other end, perfectly composed. Dark suit, crisp white shirt, no tie. He looked like he'd slept 12 hours and spent the morning at a spa. Between them, 50 feet of empty table and everything left unsaid. Thank you for meeting me, Richard began, his voice carefully neutral. Of course, Matteo's hands were folded on the table. Relaxed. Patient. Richard cleared his throat. I'll be direct. I know what you're doing. The stock purchases, the regulatory pressure, the supplier issues. It's coordinated. It's deliberate. And it's devastatingly effective. Is it? Matteo's expression gave away nothing. You know it is, Richard leaned forward. My company has lost 42% of its market value in 1 week. Projects are stalled. Investors are panicking. Our reputation is in shambles, he paused. You've made your point, Mr. Ricci. You've shown us you have power. That we made a mistake. Your son made a mistake, Matteo corrected softly. You're just paying for it. Ethan is young, stupid, and drunk on privilege. I know that. His mother and I are horrified by what he did to your wife. Richard's voice was sincere, pleading. But destroying our entire company, putting thousands of people out of work, that's not justice. That's overkill. Matteo said nothing, just waited. Richard reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. I'm prepared to make this right. Ethan will issue a public apology. A real one, written by him, acknowledging what he did. We'll donate $5 million to a charity of your wife's choosing. And he slid the folder across the table. We'll offer you a 10% stake in Marlowe Group. Full voting rights. A seat on the board. You'll have a say in how we operate going forward. The folder sat between them. Matteo didn't reach for it. 10%, he repeated thoughtfully. That's generous. It's worth about $80 million. Even with the recent stock drop, Richard's hands were shaking slightly. It's a peace offering, Mr. Ricci. A way to smooth things over. You'll have influence, profit, and the satisfaction of knowing we've learned our lesson. Matteo smiled. Not warmly. Not cruelly. Just. Knowingly. Mr. Marlowe, he said quietly. I think you misunderstand the situation. What do you mean? You're offering me a seat at your table. A piece of your company. A way to profit from your family's business. Matteo stood slowly, walking along the length of the table toward Richard. His footsteps echoed in the silent room. But you see, I don't want a piece of your table. He stopped directly across from Richard. I own the building it sits in. Richard's face went pale. What? The conference room doors opened. 2 men in suits entered. Lawyers, by the look of them. They carried document folders. These are representatives from Apex Holdings, Kronos Investment Group, and Sterling Capital Partners, Matteo said calmly. You might recognize those names. They're the shell companies that have been buying your stock. Richard's hands clenched on the armrests of his chair. Over the past 7 days, through 32 different acquisition vehicles across 14 countries, I have purchased, either directly or through controlled proxies, 51% of Marlowe Group's outstanding shares, Mateo's voice never rose above conversational. As of 9 a.m. this morning, I own controlling interest in your company. The lawyers placed 3 folders in front of Richard. Legal documents, acquisition papers, stock certificates. All real, all legally binding, all already filed with the SEC.
That's
impossible, Richard whispered, flipping through the papers with shaking hands. This kind of acquisition, the coordination, the capital required, is substantial, yes, Mateo agreed. But not impossible, just expensive. And I have expensive resources. Richard looked up, his face ashen. You can't do this. There are laws, hostile takeover regulations, all of which I've followed precisely. Mateo returned to his seat, settling back comfortably. Every purchase was legal. Every disclosure properly filed. Every regulation satisfied. Your lawyers are welcome to review the documentation. They'll find it's airtight. The room was silent except for the sound of papers rustling as Richard desperately searched for something, anything, that would make this untrue. Why? Richard finally asked, his voice hoarse. If you already control the company, why agree to this meeting? Why let me embarrass myself with offers you don't need? Mateo's expression softened slightly. Because my wife asked me to think strategically instead of emotionally. And strategy requires understanding your opponent. He gestured at the folder Richard had brought. Your offer told me everything I needed to know. You think this is about money, about power, about business. Isn't it? No, Mateo's voice went cold. It's about ensuring that what happened to Anna never happens to anyone else. It's about teaching your family and every family like yours that there are consequences for cruelty. Real consequences. Richard slumped in his chair, defeated. So what now? You liquidate the company? Sell it off in pieces? Destroy everything my father built? That depends, Mateo said. On what? On whether you're willing to actually change, Mateo stood. I own 51%, Mr. Marlowe. But you still own 23%. Your board still has influence. Your name is still on the company. He moved toward the door, then paused. The question is, are you willing to use that influence to build something better? Or will you fight me and watch everything burn? Richard looked at the documents spread in front of him. Decades of work. His father's legacy. His son's inheritance. All of it now controlled by the man whose wife Ethan had humiliated for entertainment. I don't have a choice, do I? Richard said bitterly. You always have a choice, Mateo replied. You just don't have control anymore. There's a difference. He walked to the door, then looked back one final time. My lawyers will be in touch with terms. Think carefully about your response, Mr. Marlowe. Because this is the only offer you'll receive from me. And if I refuse, Mateo smiled. Then you'll learn exactly how thoroughly I can dismantle a company I own controlling interest in. Legally.
systematically.
Completely. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Richard Marlowe sat alone in the conference room, surrounded by papers that proved he'd lost a war he didn't even know he was fighting until it was already over. Anna was folding laundry when her phone exploded with notifications. Not metaphorically. Actually exploded. Buzz after buzz until she grabbed it in frustration and saw the headline trending across every social media platform. Federal investigation. Marlowe Group allegedly diverted charity funds for tax evasion scheme. Her stomach dropped. She clicked the article. The byline was from ProPublica, a respected investigative journalism outlet. The piece was detailed, methodical, devastating. According to leaked documents from an ongoing federal investigation, Marlowe Group had been using charity events, including the very banquet where Anna had been humiliated, to funnel donation money through shell corporations. The donations were written off as tax deductions while the money was secretly routed back to Marlowe Properties through consulting fees and service contracts. The article included copies of financial records, email chains, bank statements. Everything meticulously documented. Everything damning. One email, sent from Ethan Marlowe's personal account, literally said, "Dad, the charity loop works perfectly. We write off 2M, cycle it back through the Cayman account, and pocket 18M clean. Inspector won't touch it. Anna read it 3 times, her hands shaking. Then she read the disclaimer at the end. Marlowe Group representatives declined to comment. Federal investigators would neither confirm nor deny the existence of an investigation. Her phone rang. Mateo.
Don't, she said when she answered.
Anna. Don't tell me you didn't do this. Don't tell me it's coincidence. Her voice was shaking. A federal investigation? Leaked documents? The timing is too perfect, Mateo. Silence on the other end. Say something, Anna demanded. I didn't leak anything, Mateo said carefully. I don't know who gave those documents to ProPublica. But you knew they existed. Yes. And you knew they would surface. I suspected. Anna closed her eyes. How long have you had those documents? Anna. How long? A pause. Then, quietly. About 4 days. My forensic accountants found them while doing due diligence after the acquisition. 4 days. He'd been sitting on evidence of federal crimes for 4 days. Waiting. Planning. You could have turned them over to authorities immediately, Anna said. That's what a normal person would do. I could have, Mateo agreed. But normal people don't win wars. This isn't a war, Mateo. This is, she struggled for words. This is complete destruction. You didn't just beat them. You buried them. They buried themselves, Mateo said, his voice hardening. Those documents are real, Anna. Those crimes are real. I didn't make Ethan write that email. I didn't force the Marlowes to steal from charity. I just made sure the truth came to light by leaking it to the press instead of law enforcement. I didn't leak anything. But if someone else did, someone who works at Marlowe Group, someone who is disgusted by what they found, I can't control that. Anna felt sick. The plausible deniability was so perfect it was almost beautiful. Mateo's fingerprints were nowhere on this. The leak could have come from anyone, an angry employee, a whistleblower, a federal agent. And yet she knew. Deep in her bones, she knew. You orchestrated this, she whispered. I ensured justice was served. Stop calling it justice. Anna shouted, surprising herself. This is revenge, Mateo. Complete, total, overwhelming revenge. You didn't just make them pay for what Ethan did. You destroyed their entire legacy, their company, their reputation, their freedom if this federal investigation is real. If. Mateo's voice went cold. Anna, they committed crimes. Real crimes. They stole from charities that help sick children, homeless families, cancer patients. They took money meant for people who desperately needed it and used it to buy vacation homes and luxury cars. His voice shook with genuine anger. So yes, I made sure those crimes were exposed. And yes, I made sure it happened in the most public, most devastating way possible. Because that's what they deserve. Anna sank onto the couch, the phone pressed to her ear. And what about what I deserve? What do you mean? I deserve a husband who doesn't terrify me, she said quietly. I deserve to look at you and see the man I married, not someone who manipulates federal investigations and ruins lives with the same ease he makes coffee in the morning. Mateo was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. I did this for you. No, Anna said. You did this for you. For your ego. For your need to win. Tears ran down her face. I asked you to stop. I asked you to think strategically instead of emotionally. And you heard, be smarter about revenge, instead of stop hurting people. They hurt you first. And now they're destroyed. Anna screamed. Their company is gone. Their reputation is ruined. They're facing federal prison. When does it end, Mateo? When they're bankrupt. When they're in jail. When they're dead. When does your revenge finally feel like enough? The line was silent except for her ragged breathing. I love you, Mateo said finally, his voice barely audible. Everything I did because I love you. Because I couldn't stand watching you hurt and doing nothing. You did so much more than something, Anna whispered. You became someone I don't recognize. Anna, please. I need space, she said. I need to think. I need to figure out if I can live with what you've done. With what you're capable of doing. Where are you going? My sister's place in Boston. Just for a few days, she wiped her eyes. Don't follow me. Don't send people to watch me. Don't. Don't be that person. Please. Another long silence. Okay, Matteo said quietly. I'll give you space. But Anna. What? I'm not sorry for exposing their crimes. I'm not sorry for making sure they faced consequences. His voice was firm, certain. But I am sorry that it cost me your trust. That's the one thing I never meant to lose. Anna hung up without responding. She sat on the couch, staring at her phone as notifications continued pouring in. The Marlowe story was everywhere now. Cable news, social media, late-night talk shows. Ethan's face next to mugshot-style photos. His father looking haggard outside their Manhattan offices. And somewhere in all of that chaos, orchestrated with precision and executed with ruthless efficiency, was her husband's invisible hand. Matteo had won.
Completely. Bloodlessly. Perfectly.
And Anna had never felt more alone. Anna was packing when she heard the front door open. She told Matteo she was going to Boston, but she hadn't left yet. Couldn't seem to make herself move. She'd been standing in their bedroom for 20 minutes, staring at an empty suitcase, paralyzed by the weight of everything that had happened. His footsteps were quiet on the hardwood floor. When he appeared in the doorway, he looked tired. Not physically. Matteo never looked physically tired. But there was something in his eyes. Something heavy. You're still here, he said. I'm leaving. Anna folded a sweater mechanically. I just needed to pack. Anna, can we talk? I think we've said everything. Please, he stepped into the room. 5 minutes. Then I'll call you a car. I'll give you all the space you need. Anna's hands stilled on the suitcase. She didn't turn around. What's left to say, Matteo? You won. The Marlowes are destroyed. Ethan will probably go to prison. His father's company is yours. You got everything you wanted. I didn't get what I wanted, Matteo said quietly. I wanted you to feel safe. To feel protected. To know that no one would ever hurt you like that again. By burying them, Anna finally turned to face him. By systematically destroying every aspect of their lives? That's not protection, Matteo. That's annihilation. They deserved it. Maybe they did. Anna's voice cracked. Maybe Ethan deserved to lose everything. Maybe his father deserved to have his crimes exposed. Maybe they're terrible people who've hurt others and deserved every bit of what you did to them. She wiped at her eyes angrily. But you didn't fix anything. You didn't make the world better. You didn't create justice. You buried them so deep they'll never see daylight again. Matteo's jaw tightened. So, what should I have done? Let them apologize and move on? Let Ethan face no real consequences? Let them keep operating the same way, hurting the same people, stealing from the same charities? I don't know. Anna's composure finally broke. I don't know what the right answer is. But I know that watching you become this person, this calculating, ruthless person who manipulates investigations and destroys companies and controls everything from the shadows, it scares me, Matteo. It scares me so much. I'm still the same person. No, you're not. Anna shook her head. The man I married would have been angry, yes. Would have wanted justice, absolutely. But he wouldn't have orchestrated a complete corporate takeover across 14 countries. He wouldn't have leaked federal documents to maximize media impact. He wouldn't have, she gestured helplessly. He wouldn't have enjoyed it. Matteo went very still. You think I enjoyed this? Didn't you? Anna met his eyes. Even a little? The strategy, the precision, the way every move worked perfectly? The way you sat across from Richard Marlowe and told him you owned his company? You can tell me it was all for justice, all for protection, but Matteo, there was power in it too. And power changes people. The words hung between them like smoke. You're right, Matteo said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Anna blinked. What? You're right. He moved closer, slowly, like he was afraid she'd bolt. There was a part of me that felt satisfaction. Watching them realize they'd underestimated me, watching their empire crumble. Knowing I'd won so completely, they couldn't even comprehend the scope of their loss, his hands clenched at his sides. And you're right to be scared of that. Because I'm a little scared of it too. Anna's breath caught. When I saw you on your knees that night, Matteo continued, his voice raw, something in me broke. Or maybe it woke up. Something I've spent years keeping controlled, keeping quiet. He looked at her with haunted eyes. My mother died broken and poor because men with power crushed her and felt nothing. I swore I'd never let that happen to someone I loved. And when it did, when I saw you humiliated, crying, begging, his voice cracked. I became exactly what I needed to be to make sure it never happened again. A monster? Anna whispered. A weapon. Matteo's laugh was hollow.
Precise.
Efficient. Merciless. Everything necessary to win. He paused. But you're asking me if I can put that weapon down. If I can go back to being just Matteo, your husband, the man who makes you coffee and leaves you stupid notes. Can you? He was quiet for a long moment, and Anna saw the war playing out behind his eyes. The part of him that had orchestrated this perfect revenge versus the part that just wanted to be loved by his wife. I don't know, he admitted. I know I should say yes. Promise you I'll never do something like this again. But Anna, if someone hurt you tomorrow, if anyone ever made you feel that way again, his voice went hard. I'd do it all over. Exactly the same. Maybe worse. The honesty of it was like a slap. So they never bury someone like you again, Matteo said quietly. That's why I did it. Not just for revenge. Not just for justice. But to send a message so loud, so clear, that anyone who even thinks about treating another person the way Ethan treated you will remember what happened to him. Will remember what I'm capable of. He met her eyes. And yes, that makes me dangerous. And yes, you should be scared. But I need you to understand, I'm only dangerous to people who hurt the ones I love. Anna felt tears streaming down her face. And what if that's not enough? What if I can't live with knowing what you're capable of? What if every time I look at you, I see this side of you and can't forget it? Matteo's face crumpled. Then I lose the only thing that ever mattered, he said. Because everything I did, every move I made, every company I destroyed, it means nothing if you walk out that door and don't come back. Anna turned back to her suitcase. Added another sweater, with shaking hands. I'm not saying I'm not coming back, she said quietly. I'm just saying I need to figure out if I can live with this. With you. With what loving you means. And if you can't. Anna closed the suitcase.
Zipped it slowly.
Then at least I'll have tried, she whispered. She walked past him, suitcase in hand. At the bedroom door, she paused without turning around. The man I married would have fought for justice, she said. But he would have remembered mercy too. Try to find that balance, Matteo. Before the weapon is all that's left. Then she walked out, leaving him standing alone in their bedroom, surrounded by everything they'd built together and wondering if he'd just destroyed it all. Anna had been in Boston for 3 days when the news broke. She was sitting in her sister Elena's kitchen, nursing her second cup of coffee and trying to ignore her phone when Elena walked in with her laptop. You need to see this, Elena said, setting it on the table. Anna didn't want to see anything. She'd spent 3 days trying not to look at news about Matteo, the Marlows, or anything related to the mess she'd left behind. She'd turned off notifications, avoided social media, even stopped checking her email. Elena, I really don't. Anna, look. Something in her sister's voice made her look. The headline read, Matteo Ricci announces $500 million foundation for worker dignity and protection. Anna's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. The article explained that Matteo had restructured his acquisition of Marlowe Group, liquidating certain assets and redirecting them into a newly established charitable foundation. The Anna Ricci Foundation for Dignity in Labor would focus on protecting service workers from harassment, abuse, and exploitation. It would provide legal aid, advocacy, training programs, and emergency financial assistance. But that wasn't the twist that made Anna's hands shake. The foundation's inaugural donor list showed the Marlowe family contributing $250 million, half the foundation's total funding. What the hell? Anna whispered. She scrolled frantically through the article. There were quotes from Matteo about his wife's experience, inspiring the foundation. Statements about turning tragedy into positive change. And then, buried in the middle, the Marlowe family has demonstrated their commitment to making amends by pledging substantial resources to ensure no service worker experiences what my wife experienced. Their contribution represents not just financial support, but a fundamental shift in values. Anna's phone buzzed. A text from Matteo. I know you asked for space, but I thought you should hear this from me first.
Check your email.
With shaking hands, Anna opened her email. The message was short. Kara, you asked me to find balance, to remember mercy alongside justice. I'm trying. The Marlowes didn't just commit crimes against the law, they committed crimes against human dignity. But you were right. Burying them doesn't fix anything. It doesn't help the next person who gets treated the way you were treated. So I made them a deal. In exchange for reduced charges and the opportunity to retain 15% of their company, non-voting shares, the Marlowe family agreed to fund this foundation. Richard and Ethan will serve on the advisory board unpaid. They'll spend the next decade actively working to undo the culture they created. It's not mercy. It's redemption. Forced redemption, maybe, but redemption nonetheless. The foundation is named after you because you inspired it. Not because of what happened to you, but because of what you said to me. You can't build peace on humiliation, you were right. But maybe we can build something good from it. I love you. Whether you come home or not, I love you. Anna read it 3 times. Then she opened her laptop and started digging. The press conference had happened that morning. Anna found the full video on YouTube. Matteo stood at a podium, impeccably dressed as always, with a backdrop showing the foundation's logo, 2 hands reaching toward each other, one offering help, one receiving it. But he wasn't alone. To his left stood Richard Marlowe, looking 10 years older than he had at the plaza meeting. To his right, Ethan Marlowe, his arrogant smirk replaced with something that looked almost like shame. 3 weeks ago, Matteo began, his voice calm and measured. My wife experienced something no person should ever experience. She was humiliated, assaulted, and dehumanized while simply doing her job. The camera flashed to Ethan, who visibly flinched. The person responsible stands beside me today. Not because I've forgiven him. Forgiveness is not mine to give. But because he and his family have agreed to spend the next decade proving they understand the gravity of what happened. Matteo gestured to the screen behind him, which now showed the Foundation's mission statement. The Anna Ricci Foundation will provide resources and protection for service workers across the country. Legal representation for those who face harassment. Emergency funds for those who lose their jobs after reporting abuse. Training programs that teach both workers and employers about dignity, respect, and accountability. He paused, and the camera caught something unexpected in his expression. Uncertainty. Vulnerability. My wife told me that you can't build peace on humiliation. She was right. But she also showed me that sometimes the people who cause harm can be part of the solution if they're willing to do the work. Richard Marlowe stepped forward to the microphone. His hands trembled slightly. What my son did was inexcusable, Richard said, his voice rough. What our company culture enabled was shameful. We've spent decades believing our wealth and influence put us above consequences, above accountability. He took a breath. We were wrong. And this foundation is our first step, our first of many steps, toward making that right. Then Ethan spoke, and Anna had to pause the video because her hands were shaking so badly. I don't expect forgiveness, Ethan said, staring directly at the camera. What I did to Mrs. Ricci was cruel, degrading, and wrong. I thought it was funny. I thought I was entitled to treat people however I wanted because of who my family was, his voice cracked. I was wrong. And I'm going to spend a very long time proving I understand that. The video showed reporters firing questions, Mateo handling them with practiced ease. The Marlowes looking uncomfortable but present, committed, real. Anna closed her laptop. He turned them into allies, Elena said quietly. She'd been watching over Anna's shoulder.
That's
Actually kind of brilliant. It's manipulative, Anna said automatically. Is it? Elena raised an eyebrow. He could have destroyed them completely. Put them in prison, bankrupted them, erased them. Instead, he's forcing them to spend a decade actually helping people. Actually learning. Actually changing, she paused. That's not mercy, maybe. But it's not pure revenge either. It's something in between. Anna thought about Mateo's words. I'm trying. Not I've found balance, not I've changed completely, just I'm trying. He created something good, Anna whispered. From something terrible. He created something good in your name, Elena corrected. And he made the people who hurt you part of healing that hurt, she squeezed Anna's shoulder. That's pretty close to justice, Anna. Real justice. Not revenge.
not mercy. Just
accountability with purpose. Anna stared at her phone. At Mateo's message still glowing on the screen. I love you. Whether you come home or not, I love you. She'd asked him to find balance between the weapon and the man. And he was trying. It wasn't perfect. It was complicated and messy, and probably still manipulative in ways she didn't fully understand. But it was trying. And maybe that was enough to start rebuilding what had been broken. Anna picked up her phone and typed, I saw the news.
Can we talk?
The response came immediately, always. I'm here whenever you're ready. Not come home, not I need you, just I'm here whenever you're ready. Anna looked at Elena. Can I borrow your car? Her sister smiled. He's in New York. That's a 4-hour drive. I know. You sure you're ready? Anna wasn't sure of anything, but she knew that Mateo had heard her, had tried to change, had created something beautiful from something ugly. And she knew that whatever happened next, they needed to figure it out together. I'm sure I need to try, Anna said. That would have to be enough. Anna stood outside the Grand Meridian Ballroom, her hand frozen on the polished brass door handle. We don't have to do this, Mateo said quietly beside her. We can leave right now. No one would blame you. I would blame me, Anna took a deep breath. She was wearing a deep blue dress, simple, elegant, nothing like the server's uniform she'd worn 3 weeks ago. Her hair, now professionally styled into a sleek bob just above her shoulders, caught the light from the chandeliers visible through the glass doors. I need to do this. Why? Mateo asked gently. Anna, you don't owe anyone. I owe myself. She finally looked at him. That night, I left this place humiliated.
Destroyed.
I let Ethan Marlowe take my dignity. She straightened her shoulders. I need to walk back in and take it back. Through the doors, she could hear music, conversation, the clink of glasses. The Foundation's inaugural gala was already in full swing. 300 guests, donors, advocates, journalists, politicians. All there to celebrate the Anna Ricci Foundation for Dignity in Labor. All there because of the worst night of her life. Ready. Mateo offered his arm. Anna hesitated, then shook her head. I need to walk in alone. Is that okay? Something flickered across Mateo's face. Surprise, then understanding, then pride. Of course. I'll be right behind you. But this moment? It's yours. She kissed his cheek quickly, then pushed open the doors before she could lose her nerve. The ballroom was exactly as she remembered, and completely different. The same crystal chandeliers, the same marble floors, the same floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. But the energy was transformed. Where there had been cold elegance, there was now warmth. Where there had been exclusion, there was welcome. And as Anna stepped inside, the room began to notice. Conversations quieted. Heads turned. Someone near the entrance recognized her, and a ripple of awareness spread through the crowd like a wave. Anna's heart hammered. For a terrible moment, she was back on her knees, hair falling around her, cameras recording her humiliation. She could almost feel the weight of judgment, the heat of shame. Then someone started clapping. A woman in a green dress, standing near the champagne fountain where Anna had grabbed the bottle that started everything. The woman was clapping, her face fierce and proud. Another person joined her. Then another. Then a whole section of the room. Within seconds, the entire ballroom was applauding. Not polite charity gala applause. Real applause. The kind that said, "We see you. We recognize what you survived. We're honoring your courage." Anna stood frozen in the doorway, tears threatening to spill down her carefully made-up face. She saw faces in the crowd, some she recognized from that awful night, people who'd stood silent while Ethan humiliated her. Now they were on their feet, applauding her. Not out of guilt, she realized. Not out of obligation. But because they genuinely understood what this moment meant. A server passed by carrying a tray of champagne. A young woman, maybe 22, with kind eyes. She paused beside Anna and whispered, "Thank you. For what you're doing. For all of us." Then she moved on, but her words stayed. For all of us. This wasn't just about Anna anymore. It was about every person who'd ever been treated as less than human while just trying to do their job. Every server who'd been harassed. Every worker who'd been belittled. Every person who'd been made to feel invisible and worthless. Anna wasn't just reclaiming her dignity. She was reclaiming theirs too. Mrs. Ricci, a gentle hand touched her elbow. A woman in her 60s, elegant and warm, wearing a name tag that read, "Board Member, Maria Santos. I'm so honored to meet you. Would you mind saying a few words?" "I know it wasn't planned, but..." "Yes," Anna said, surprising herself. "I'd like to." Maria led her through the crowd toward a small stage at the front of the ballroom. Anna's legs felt unsteady, but she kept moving. As she passed, people reached out, not to grab or demand, but to touch her hand briefly, to nod, to acknowledge her. She saw Richard Marlowe in the crowd, standing near the back with his wife. He looked older, grayer, diminished. When their eyes met, he nodded once, not apologetic exactly, but respectful, acknowledging. Ethan stood beside him, wearing a name tag that identified him as an advisory board member. He looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. When Anna's gaze found him, he couldn't meet her eyes. Just stared at his shoes, his face flushed with shame. Good, Anna thought. Let him feel it. Let him remember. She climbed the stage steps. Maria handed her a microphone, and suddenly Anna was looking out at 300 faces, all focused on her. The same ballroom, the same view, but everything had changed. "I'm not good at speeches," Anna began, her voice shaking slightly. 3 weeks ago, I stood in this exact room as a waitress covering a friend's shift. I was invisible, unimportant, just part of the background. The room was utterly silent. And then I became very visible. But for all the wrong reasons, Anna's throat tightened. Someone decided I was entertainment. That my dignity was worth less than a joke. That humiliating me would make for a good video. She could see people shifting uncomfortably, remembering. For a while, I wanted to disappear again. To go back to being invisible because at least invisible didn't hurt. Anna took a breath. But then I realized something. Being invisible is how this keeps happening. Service workers are treated badly because people have learned to look through us. To see uniforms instead of humans. To forget that we have lives, families, feelings. Her voice grew stronger. This foundation isn't about revenge. It's not about punishment. It's about visibility. It's about making sure every worker, every person, is seen as exactly what they are, human beings deserving of dignity and respect. She paused. And it's about making sure that when someone's dignity is attacked, there are resources to help. Legal support. Financial assistance. A community that says, "We see you. You matter. You're not alone." The applause started again, but Anna raised her hand gently. I didn't want to be here tonight, she admitted. I was terrified to walk back into this room. But I'm glad I did. Because now, when I think about this ballroom, I won't just remember the worst night of my life, she smiled, tears finally spilling over. I'll remember this night too. When something terrible became something hopeful. When pain turned into purpose. Anna looked toward the back of the room, where Matteo stood silently, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read.
Pride, certainly.
Love, absolutely. But also something else. Maybe relief. Maybe recognition that she was stronger than either of them had realized. Thank you for being here, Anna said to the crowd. And thank you for believing that every person deserves to be treated with dignity. No matter who they are. No matter what job they do. No matter what. The applause was thunderous. Anna stepped off the stage, and the guests surged forward. Not aggressively, but eagerly, wanting to shake her hand, share their stories, thank her. She was surrounded by warmth and support and genuine human connection. And from across the room, Matteo watched his wife shine. The gala wound down slowly, like a dream reluctant to end. Anna found herself at the champagne fountain, the same fountain where she'd grabbed the bottle 3 weeks ago. She stared at the bubbling golden liquid, watching it cascade down the crystal tears. Different view from up here, isn't it? She turned to find Ethan Marlowe standing a careful distance away, his hands in his pockets. He looked nothing like the arrogant heir who'd cut her hair. His expensive suit couldn't hide the exhaustion in his face, the weight he seemed to carry. Anna's first instinct was to walk away, but something made her stay. What do you want? She asked, not unkindly. To apologize. Really apologize. Not the PR statement my lawyers wrote. Ethan's voice cracked. Mrs. Ricci, what I did to you was unforgivable. I was drunk, yes, but that's not an excuse. I was cruel because I thought I could be. Because no one had ever made me understand that other people's dignity matters as much as my own entertainment. Anna studied him. And now I spend 60 hours a week working with the foundation. Meeting workers. Hearing their stories. Learning everything I should have learned 20 years ago, he swallowed hard. I can't undo what I did. But I'm trying to make sure I never become that person again. Why? Anna asked. Because my husband forced you to? At first, yes, Ethan met her eyes.
But now?
Because I saw the video. All of it. And I saw myself through everyone else's eyes. And I was monstrous. My own mother couldn't look at me for a week, his voice dropped. I'm ashamed of who I was. And I'm trying to build someone better. Anna was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I don't forgive you, Ethan.
Not yet.
Maybe not ever. I understand. But I believe you're trying. And that matters, she paused. Keep trying. Keep learning. Keep making sure other people don't suffer, because someone with power thinks it's funny. Ethan nodded, his eyes bright. I will. I promise. He walked away, and Anna felt something inside her shift. Not forgiveness, but closure. The beginning of healing. That was generous of you. Matteo appeared beside her, 2 champagne flutes in his hands. He offered her one, then paused. Or would you prefer something else? Anna took the glass, smiling slightly. I think I can handle champagne now. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the last guests filter out. The ballroom was emptying, staff beginning the quiet work of cleanup. The same young waitress from earlier passed by, and Anna caught her eye. Thank you, Anna said. For what you do. It matters. The girl's face lit up. Thank you, Mrs. Ricci, for making sure we matter. When she left, Matteo turned to Anna. You were magnificent tonight. The speech, the way you carried yourself, he shook his head. I'm in awe of you. Don't be. Anna set down her champagne.
I'm terrified, Matteo.
Terrified of what comes next. Of running this foundation. Of being this person everyone expects me to be. You don't have to be anyone but yourself. And what if myself isn't enough? Matteo took her hand, and the simple gesture felt like coming home. Anna, You stood in front of 300 people and turned your worst moment into something that will help thousands. You faced the man who hurt you with grace and wisdom. You walked back into the room where you were humiliated and left it as its ambassador. He squeezed her hand. You're more than enough. You always have been. Anna felt tears threaten again. Happy tears this time. We're okay? You and me? Are we? Matteo asked seriously. I know I scared you. I know I became someone you didn't recognize. And I can't promise I'll never be that person again if someone threatens you. I'm not asking for promises, Anna interrupted. I'm asking if you understand why it scared me. Yes, Matteo's voice was certain. And I'm asking if you can live with loving someone who has that darkness in them, who can be ruthless when protecting the people he loves, who won't always choose mercy first. Anna thought about the past 3 weeks. The destruction, the manipulation, the calculated revenge that had somehow transformed into reluctant redemption. She thought about Matteo sitting across from Richard Marlowe, claiming ownership of everything. And she thought about him creating this foundation, forcing accountability, building something good from something terrible. I can live with it, she said finally, as long as you remember that the darkness isn't all you are, that there's kindness too, gentleness, love. I'll remember, Matteo promised. You'll make sure of it. They walked toward the exit together, Matteo's arm around her waist. At the doors, Anna paused and looked back at the ballroom one final time. The chandeliers still sparkled. The marbles still gleamed. But the ghosts were gone. The humiliation, the shame, the feeling of being small and powerless, all of it replaced with something new. Something stronger. Matteo followed her gaze. They mocked you in my house, he said quietly, his lips close to her ear. Now the city stands in yours. Anna smiled faintly, catching her reflection in the polished doors. Her short hair gleamed in the chandelier's light, elegant and intentional. She looked different than she had 3 weeks ago. Not just the haircut. Something deeper, something essential, had changed. She was no longer the humiliated waitress. No longer the victim. No longer invisible. She was Anna Ricci, the woman who had survived cruelty and transformed it into purpose. The woman who had inspired an empire to change its tone. The woman who had taught everyone watching that dignity wasn't something that could be cut away with scissors. It was something you carried inside, unbreakable, eternal. And standing beside her was the man who had declared war for her honor, but learned mercy through her wisdom. Imperfect, dangerous when needed, but hers. Ready to go home? Matteo asked. Anna took one last look at the ballroom, her ballroom now, in all the ways that mattered, and nodded. Yes, she said. Let's go home. They walked out together into the New York night, leaving the Grand Meridian behind. Tomorrow, the foundation would begin its real work. Tomorrow, the headlines would continue. Tomorrow, there would be challenges and complications and all the messy reality of building something meaningful. But tonight, they had won something more valuable than revenge. They had reclaimed dignity, rebuilt trust, remembered love. And in a city of 8 million people, in a world that often forgot to see the invisible ones, they had proven that sometimes the quietest crown was the one you placed on your own head. The end.